Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to Knock Off the Perch, a Manchester United podcast. I am Aruj, and joining me is my co host, Dheeraj. And in today's episode, we'll be discussing the game against Brighton, United's second game in the Premier League. It was a disappointing defeat for us. We will talk about what we felt about the game. We will try and break down what is it that we saw in the game that was good for us. What is it that we would want to see improving in the upcoming games. Let's get into it.
Yeah, hi folks, welcome back. One word which I'll use for the game against Brighton would be disappointing. Not many positives to take from the game. We were building on from strength to strength when it came from the preseason. A lot of new signings, a new management, new coaching staff. This seemed like a break in the good stride. But that being said, there were still some positives which we could see from the game. There were still some patterns of play which we could see from the game. The major disappointment, the major complaints from the United fan base has been a lack of style of play. We could see some patterns in this game, even though it was a completely different first and second half. What do you say, Aruj?
Yeah, I mean, overall, looking back at the game, we started the game really well, in my opinion. Coordinated pressing happening from the front, and I think that laid a good foundation. But we could never find that critical key pass to the final third, or whenever we were creating those half chances, we were not acting onto those. And then a goal against the run of play from Brighton sort of deflated the spirits a little bit. We went into the first half 1-0. And what I was hearing, it was probably a little bit of an injury scare to Mount, which led Ten Hag to bring Zirkzee in at 45 minutes. But with Mount going out at the beginning of the second half, we almost lost a lot of control. But then again, against the run of play in that 60th minute, we got a goal. And then that 71st minute goal, it almost felt like, had that come through, we would have been in a better position. Probably Brighton would have still scored, and it would have been a 2-2 draw in that case. But in the overall balance of things, it felt like had we come away with a draw from this game, it would have just felt slightly better. It would have felt we have continued with the progress that we are seeing. But yeah, I think in short, all in all, a disappointing result.
Was it a personal problem? Was it a lack of game intelligence? What would we, or was it just one of those unlucky games wherein nothing is going your way? We did have a very great goal rolled out by Garnacho when he came on because of a freak of a touch by Zirkzee, which is something you would never blame him for. We have been crying out for a number 9 to be in those positions. He was at the right place at the right time. It was just a very unlucky touch by our newcomer. He did give us our last 3 points. He did come on and change the game last time. Yeah. Expectations were the same this time. So what would you pin it down to?
I wouldn't call it an unlucky loss. I mean, all said and done, Brighton were really good in the game. They probably deserved those 3 points a little more than we did. And maybe I'm repeating myself, but on the balance of things, had it been a draw, I would have come out happy of that game. However, I think where the challenge really lies is in bit of a game intelligence from the team, especially both the goals that we conceded. I think these were personnel errors. I wouldn't put them down as coaching errors per se. These were personnel errors in the moment of the game. Even some of the chances, we should have had better attempts at the goal, if not converted them. So again, those are individual issues or individual mistakes. It could also boil down to the fact that it will take time for the 4 or 5 new signings that we have, and a few of the players who are not there pretty much for the entirety of the last season, also spending more time with the team, trying different formats with some of the key personnel not being available. So it could come down to that. But at least one good thing was, and the one big positive was, that in the beginning when we were controlling the game, there were those patterns of play that were emerging where you would see the team building out from the back, the team having a very coordinated press in the front. So that was a big positive takeaway. And right now, I'm not in a state of panic. I think the results will come. It's just that the next game is a big one against Liverpool, and if we were to lose that one, some of this noise around the manager and how poorly the team has been playing is only going to increase. So I think just so that some of that doesn't happen, if we can nick a win in that one, that will really help.
It's been 2 years since Ten Hag has come in. He inherited a team which was built by about four managers. He's still getting his way. He's still knitting his way around the team. So one thing which I feel differentiates us from the top two, top three, the cities, the Arsenals, and the Liverpools of the world is we think of a game control as something which should come in phases of the game. We see ourselves controlling parts of the game. Even when City, Liverpool, I saw the games this weekend, even when they didn't have possession in the games, they were very much in control. Their off the ball running, their game management, their players somehow know when to slow down a game, when to raise the speed up. They have at least 2 to 3 players who know how to increase or decrease the pace of the game, which is something we don't have. Our matches look like basketball matches. We are, very rapid in our attacks, but we are scrambling when we are defending. We even though when we have possession in our own half, we look comfortable. But as soon as the other team is attacking, and then as soon as the last 15 minutes come in, we are very much under the pressure. We are very much under. I read this stat recently that we have lost Premier League games in injury time in the last 2 years more than we have done that in the last 30 years preceding that. The Fergie time, which used to be a strong point, it has become a weakness now. And it has to come down to game intelligence. It has to come down to people not knowing how to manage a game. Yeah.
I don't doubt that at all. And when I was just hearing you talk about some of the, patterns that emerge when we've been playing, and whatever you said, I could just see the last season flashing by, because that is how the entire last season was. We would try to attack on the counter. The front four, aided by the middle two, would sort of press up to support the attack. And as soon as we would try and do that, inevitably we'll lose the ball, and the other team would sort of have one great pass up front, and suddenly the entire midfield and defense would be separated by a football field. There would be a huge gap in the middle. And at least in the beginning of the game, I didn't see much of that. Even in the Community Shield game or the first game of the Premier League, I didn't see that happening. I definitely see an improvement. And which is where I think with the kind of signings we have made in this particular season, and how is it that we are looking to break down the opponent's play and then also build from our defense. I think some of that will improve. Maybe I am being a little too optimistic, but I have a feeling this group of players will get into that groove and will be doing better.
I agree. We are still into the second game of the season. I truly believe that there is better from this team to come. My question to you would be, who do you see in United? See, I believe a midfield is the one who should be dictating the game, who usually dictates the game. City has Rodri, and there is no other player like Rodri in the league currently. Liverpool have their Soboslai, their McAllister, who know how to, and the Van Dijk, who are the spine of the team, who know how to fasten or, slow down a game. Who do you see from the United squad who does that for us?
I think Kobe Manu is too young, but I see him as somebody who emerges and takes control of the pace of the game. Unfortunately, Casemiro is not the same Casemiro that he used to be a few years back, which is, I think, central to a few of our problems. And a lot of us are expecting Ugarte to come in and solve a lot of that. To be very honest, I am not sure if Ugarte is a player who solves for a lot of that. Truth be told, I haven't seen a lot of PSG games, especially the ones with Ugarte in the center of the park. But at least the stats I've been reading, the clips I've been seeing, it seems like almost like a Licha-esque aggression and Licha-esque mentality in the midfield, which will be great when we have to break down play. I am not sure if how good Ugarte is at controlling the pace of the game. So I think it will have to come down to Menu to do that.
See, in my head, I see Bruno taking up that role. Bruno has been giving the free rein. Bruno has been taking up positions in defense midfield. Bruno has been doing what we saw Rooney do that in our prime years. Rooney was everywhere on the pitch. Rooney defined how we attacked. Rooney was the first to track back. Rooney stepped into the midfield when it was asked of him to do so. Bruno is our captain. Bruno is the one with the highest game intelligence. I believe so. But that being said, he has to come into games defining the pace of the game. This is his time. He has established himself as a United great already. Now is the time when he has to start defining the pace of the game so that United get to decide when we attack and when we defend.
No, I agree. I mean, there is no better player than Bruno to do that in our squad. It's just that the positions he is taking up and what he is supposed to in this current setup where we are playing with almost like two false nines will have to change for that to happen, because I think what is happening is with Bruno and Mount being given the responsibilities of being those two false nines, they are responsible for leading the press up front. A lot of times we see Mount and Bruno almost doing it in turns where in some cases Bruno will lead the press, in some cases Mount will lead the press. And Bruno has that innate ability to naturally tend deeper in the midfield as well. And just if we look at the kind of passes where they're making their passes from, you look at Bruno's pass map, he's been coming much deeper all the time as well. And probably he would do that more when he's playing almost like between 8 or 10 when we have a proper striker up front, right? But at this point in time, he's not able to do that. And in comparison, if you look at Mount, Mount is just not able to impact in the right areas. So I think this two false nine approach, at least, with the teams that play better, the teams which have better control of the game, and I would count Brighton as one of those, it doesn't tend to work out that much. However, it is again a catch 22, right? The moment you lose the work rate of Bruno and Mount, I wouldn't say Bruno or Mount in this case, because we saw the moment Mount came off in the second half, whether it was an injury, Ten Hag did mention Mount complained about a bit of a issue, which is why he didn't want to risk Mount. So whether it was that or whether it was anyways coming due to tactical reasons, the moment Mount came off, we saw United lose the control of the game. With one midfielder coming off, if we're losing control of the game, other midfielders have to step up. I don't know if with regard to controlling the pace of the game, is Casemiro a liability, or if that is not Casemiro's job? His job is more to, break down the play, and when we are in possession, find that through ball, find that creative pass. But I think from a control of play perspective, with regard to where Bruno at least currently is playing, it comes down to Meno, because Meno is that 8, in my opinion. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a solve for Ten Hag as to how does he solve for this. I have a feeling once Zergzin is in a position to start, and probably in a month we will have Hoyland back, some of this style of play will evolve. But yeah, right now I don't see Bruno being able to impact the game as much.
One more general consensus which has been between the United base is also that once we get Ugarte, it will lead to Mainu being a bit more mobile. Right now, Mainu has had to compensate for a lot for Casemiro's non-mobility. I don't know how exaggerated that is. We have seen Casemiro being better than he was towards the fag end of the last season. He has been better in the pre-season, in the last couple of games that we have seen. And we have seen him break a lot of plays, a lot of interceptions. We have also seen him distribute the ball well while going front. That being said, his mobility does remain a problem. Something which I believe should have been thought of while we were signing 30-year-olds on a 4-5 year contract.
Yeah. Yeah, see, with Casemiro, I have almost zero complaints with his forward passes when he's on the ball. He has been doing that well, I think. Some of the creative passes that he has done in the past couple of games has been really well. In tight spaces, when he has to bring out a tackle, he is good at that as well. He continues to be world class there. His issue remains mobility. I think it's covering that length of the park as a midfielder, especially when he is quite a few times when he's forward as well, and which is where Manu has to do a lot of recovery runs as well, which Casemiro might not be able to make. So I see some logic in the fact that once Ugarte comes in, he pretty much sits in front of the defense, and which will allow Manu to probably flourish in that eight sort of a role. So it might help, but again, on the balance of things, is Ugarte as good with the forward passes as Casemiro? I don't know. Only time will tell. So we'll have to see how does that dynamic work out. But probably Manu and Bruno can cover up for some of that attacking flair. And yeah, so with that, we come to the end of today's episode. We covered in detail the game against Brighton, our disappointment from the game, and we covered the tactical nuances that we saw emerge from the game. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. Give us your thoughts, give us your feedback in terms of whatever you like from the episode, whatever is it that we can improve. And yeah, share it with your friends in case you liked it. And as always, this is our perch. Let's knock him off. Until next time, stay united.